Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Just a disclaimer for this video, I'm gonna be going down like a serious route with this because not really for me, since like this backstory for me now, I don't really care whatever happened, but I know what I'm about to talk about does affect a lot of people, especially I live in a parish with about 1,500 people and I know a lot of friends who've been affected by this. I hinted at it in my last video, so this is basically how I got cancer and you know how I dealt with it. There's a few hospitals that I can't mention in this, so you're just gonna have to bear with me, but I guess you can guess, like I live in Cork. This story begins back in 2015. I noticed a lump in my nuts, in my balls. I'm not shy to say it, in my testicles. I noticed a lump. Thankfully, I know a lot of people are a bit nervous to like tell their parents, especially at that young age, but I didn't care. I knew about these things and how dangerous they were, so I had no bother being like, here, I've noticed a lump, I need to get rid of it. Went to the GP. I'm telling you now, it's not a good sign when the GP basically forces you to go to the doctor. She basically looked at it, she goes, yeah, you need to go to the doctor right now. So we went the next morning. This is where some complications started happening. This certain hospital we went to said that everything was okay, it was just infection. We were like, oh good, grand, so it's not cancer, we're fine, we're happy. So I went about my life for about 5-6 months and this thing just kept getting bigger. So it started off probably like the size, it was probably like that big. Slowly it just started getting massive, way bigger than my testicles. You know, there was definitely a problem. I went back to this hospital in total I think 4 times, and each time they said the same thing, you know, it's fine, it's just inflamed. Here, we'll give you these new antibiotics each time. On the 4th time they literally gave us a diagram of what was happening, and like, you know, you would look at that and you'd be like, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. They like drew it up and everything and it all made sense. I was like, yeah, that's what's happening. Yeah, I was like, these antibiotics will work, these antibiotics will shrink it finally. But you know, there was a final straw. Hopefully I can find the picture, right? But this thing, I'm not joking, in my nuts was the size of my fist. So that's kind of on us. We probably should have like known something, it wasn't working. Final straw for me was I went to this thing in TY. I went to this like Debs kind of thing in TY. I don't know what it was, but I noticed that this thing was actually showing through my pants. So there was an actual like lump in the pants. That's when I was like, yeah, look, this is serious now. It's still growing and it's not going down. We went to get a second opinion and literally the first thing he does is take a look, and he literally was like, what have you been doing? Like, have you been living in a power plant, or have you been living with chemicals or something? This is ridiculous. He was kind of like, this has to be cancer. It was like really tough to take, but he was like, this has to be, I don't know what else it could be. I had to get can't remember what it's called. It's basically, he needed to take a chunk of this thing and just like see what it was. That was basically like my first surgery that I ever had to do, and I was really nervous about it. I'll tell you now, for anyone watching, surgery is not scary, okay? It's actually wonderful. To all ye people who love taking drugs and alcohol, this is 10 times better than drugs and alcohol. It's very quick, you don't even notice it. You basically just get extremely tired and then you fall asleep, and that's it. That's literally all it is, and you wake up, then it feels like you've been asleep for 5 seconds. This is it's kind of blurry for me, but like I had to obviously recover from that surgery. Like, you're cutting open my thing, like, so it's obviously, I spent a lot of time in bed, you know. That was a lot to take for a young fella, you know. Yeah, got over that anyway, and eventually he came back. It gets kind of blurry here because I'm not 100% positive what happened. I think like he said it and he goes, yeah, look, we think it's like cancer, but like I think there was like 2 types of cancer. I think we thought that it was only like a small cancer, that it wasn't that big of a deal, like you just get this removed and that's the end of it. We knew it was cancer, but like not in a bad way, like in like a simple, just get rid of it, bang, it's over with, no chemo, no radiation. So I still remember this. We had this holiday home in a place called Iries in West Cork. I was sitting there in bed, I was recovering from the surgery, and we were like, yeah, it's cancer or whatever, but like it's okay, we'll just get rid of it. So I knew I had to go back in to get more surgery, but it was okay. I knew it was going to be over after that. But he comes back anyway, rings us, says, oh yeah, you should come in there. We're like, grand, no bother, we'll come in. We thought he'd just be like, yeah, we're going to remove this thing and that's the end of it, but no, he goes, no, actually you've got like a really aggressive cancer in you now. We were like, what? And he was just telling us like this whole thing. He goes, yeah, we need to operate on you like basically right now, because this isn't good. As a 15-16 year old having that kind of news is kind of like, what the fuck, like. But so the next morning we got this thing removed, and this was basically the start of a huge journey. I'd gone through 2 surgeries already. My thing had finally been removed, but I'm telling you now, it was a huge relief. Having this fucking apple-sized thing in your nuts for what, 6-7 months, dragging you down, it was actually a huge relief when I got it removed. But like obviously I'd lost a testicle, so like I don't know, was it good or not? When we realized it was cancer, we'd realized how long it had been in my body, so we had to get it checked, so that just to check has it spread. So I had to get a thing, I think it was a PET scan. So there's CAT scan and there's a PET scan. CAT scan is for like general thing, but a PET scan is properly focusing on your body. It's like they use radiation to get into you. In the meantime, I was 16 years of age, which was over the age of getting into Crumlin. They wanted me either in Crumlin's children's Children's Hospital Dublin or in the Royal Marsden in England. Because other hospital, they were like, no, we want the proper full thing, because this was serious now, okay? The odds of me having this type of cancer, I think it was called a rhabdosarcoma, in my nuts at this age. Said this in my last video, but I genuinely mean this. They told me that this is like a 1 in a million chance. It's so ridiculously rare, and how aggressive it was. We went over to the Royal Marsden in Dublin, flew over one day just to see what's the crack with it and all that. It was over there. They got the results back of my PET scan, and it was not good. This was probably like the most scared I've ever been in my life. They said, no, look, bad news, that your cancer is after spreading. You know, it's actually like in your lymph nodes and it's spreading to your stomach or something like that. Obviously, like, we were terrified. We had no idea what to do. I haven't even gotten into a hospital yet. What are we going to do? And this thing is spreading fast. But we moved on and we pushed on. Still didn't get accepted into Crumlin. We had to fight this. Like, we got Minister of Health, I think it was Micheál Martin at the time. He had to help me get into Crumlin. That's how bad it got. Their policy was that like 16, you're not a kid or something like that. I didn't really want to go to the Royal Marsden. That would mean I had to go back and forth to England all the time, and like, imagine getting chemotherapy and radiation. Going over back to England wouldn't be nice. Like, it's not nice going up to Dublin, like, never mind going to England. Finally got into Crumlin. That was a good day. First time, I still remember this. It was it's kind of funny story. The Olympics were on during the time 2016 Rio Olympics was on. I remember going up to Crumlin for the first time. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but what's his name was it? One of the boxers was facing some Russian guy, and one of the Irish boxers was beating the life out of this Russian guy, like fucking bearing his face into the canvas. But it was corrupt and it was rigged, and like, confirmed rigged, and the Russian won even though he was bloodied up as fuck. Remember, they were basically telling me like, you're getting chemotherapy and all that, you're getting radiation, like, this is serious. I was like, what the fuck? I was screaming on the bed. Like, so the treatment went like this. It goes, I had to go up to Crumlin for 3 days every 3 weeks to get chemotherapy. So over those 3 days, you'd be getting constant chemotherapy into your body. It wasn't pleasant, let me tell you that. Like, it was basically like getting poisoned for 3 days straight. Like, you know, it's horrible. It was just constantly getting sick. It was constant, like every 5 minutes I'd just get sick, but it was just constant nausea. Oh god. And it got worse each time it went up. I think I did it 3 weeks. I think I did 6-7 cycles of it. So that was like the main story of it. Was I went up, got fucking poisoned for 3 days straight, and came back home for 3 weeks basically to recover because it took so long to recover from that kind of punishment. Like, those things were okay. Like, we got through them. It was horrible. I hated every minute of it. When you got home from it, you're like, oh yes, I'm fine now for 3 weeks. And then like, when it got closer, you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, I have to go up and do this thing. Push through it. Like, there was a lot of horrible nights hooked up to a machine the whole time. Forgot to mention, when you're sick, you know, you have to get a lot of needles. You need to get a lot of injections into you. So they gave me an option. They said, do you want to get a Hickman line in? And a Hickman line is basically just, they attach some tubes to your heart so that they can just connect the thing onto you instead of getting poked. So that was another kind of surgery that I needed to get. So that's 3 now, and I got this thing in. Another huge kind of thing that happened was probably halfway through this, my Hickman line, it actually got like really badly infected. I had to go into a hospital every week to get it clean, so to basically just push up some shite into you. But what happened was it had gotten infected on the inside too, and she didn't know that. Obviously no one knew, and she pushed the thing up. What she didn't know is it was infected. So when she pushed the shite up in to clean it and like flush out my body, the infection went all over my body. You can only imagine what happened. I remember one day, I think my temperature shot up into the hundreds. I couldn't walk. I couldn't barely move. I obviously didn't want to go to the hospital, right? So this is my fault a bit. I was really reluctant. I was like, no, I don't want to go to the hospital, because I'd gone so much in Crumlin. Don't make me go, please. But I was actually like dying. Like, I'm not messing when I say that. I'm dramatic all the time now, but when I say I was actually dying, I was dying. This thing was fucking taking me over. I went up, collapsed into the nurse's hands. I was fucked, right? It worked out well. I was okay. I had to get the Hickman line removed because it was fucking me up. That's 4 surgeries I have to go through now. And basically they gave me an option. They said, oh, do you want to get another Hickman line in? That would literally mean 2 more surgeries, one getting it in, one getting it out. And I was like, you know what, you can just poke me all you want. I'm not getting another Hickman line in. I had to stay in this hospital for 10 days. You can imagine how annoying that was for me, that I wanted to not go near the hospital. I've been up in Crumlin so much. It was something that had to happen. I had to get that thing removed. I then had to get my radiation treatment done. I didn't like this at all. You have to get radiation every single day. I wanted to like go up and down with the train, but I couldn't. I had to stay in a residential area, and like, as a kid I felt like I didn't belong there because it was all old people who were sick, and like, it was only, I was the youngest there. I could go home on weekends, that kind of way. It only took 15 minutes, thrown down on a table, and they line up a laser for you, absolutely blast you with radiation for 15 minutes straight. Spent a lot of time doing the radiation for 6 weeks. That was the longest fucking period because I couldn't see my friends, I couldn't see my girlfriend for like 6 whole weeks. That was great. when that day ended, that was brilliant. But let me tell you, I also had to get chemotherapy, so they were also like hardest kind of days. So I'd do my radiation and then I'd go and do my chemotherapy, and you're just like, oh my god, is this ever gonna end? Like, but the good thing about that was when you're getting radiation, they actually had to take one of the medicines out of the chemotherapy. For some reason, I don't know why, but I didn't actually get as sick then, but I was getting battered. My body was getting battered at this stage, but it was okay. We got through it. When the radiation therapy basically ended, that was like the hard part done. Now I only had like 2 or 3 more times with the chemotherapy. One of them that sticks out to me the most was the second last day. I was full on traumatized at this point now. Anything in the hospital made me vomit. I couldn't look at anything without getting sick. The smell made me get sick. I'd gotten so bad, point where like there was a certain shade of the color green. When I looked at that, it made me ill. Certain smells in the real world that got me really bad, and I would just automatically vomit. I had to deal with so many tubes. The feeling of the tube on my bare skin made me gag and get sick. It was just I don't mean to do it. It just happened. I couldn't sleep properly either because you're constantly being fed like fluids, keep you hydrated, and that basically means you need to piss a lot. But I had to piss into like a bottle so they can measure it for my kidneys or whatever. Couldn't sleep because you're constantly peeing. The second last time, I wish I knew this before, I had like this like feet massaging thing. She massaged my feet, but I actually slept. It was so beautiful because I could actually finally sleep. That was probably like the last eventful thing. The last day, I knew it was my last day, so I knew I'd get through it. Still remember the very last day I left. You usually see people ringing a bell. I had no time for no bell. I wanted to go home and fucking forget about this, that this ever happened. Like, it worked. The chemotherapy and the radiation had worked perfectly. My cancer was gone. Yeah, it finally ended. I just got up and left, and that was the end of it. It was finally over, the pain. Then I had to get a scan. I had to constantly get CAT scans throughout the whole process to check if the cancer was going away. But this CAT scan was extremely important. This was after all the treatment. So basically, if I had cancer, still had cancer, I was fucked. I was fucked. I'd have to go back through the whole thing again. But it came back good. It said the cancer was gone, and that was like the proper end of it. Still obviously have to go back for checkups every single year. It used to be every month, then used to be every 3 months, then every 6 months, every 9 months, but now it's every year. I've been cancer free for about 6 years now, has it, or something like that. So I'm pretty confident that, like, at the moment anyway, I'm pretty confident that I should be okay. But like, again, you'd never know. It's the one bad thing about it for me, is that if I get cancer again, it's very unlikely that I'm going to survive it that kind of way. It's pretty dark. It's very dark, but confident that I won't get it. How am I doing now? I'm doing brilliant now. I'm healthy again. I was a bit nervous when I lost one of my nuts that like my hormones wouldn't be good, my testosterone wouldn't be half as good. I thought my sports was over basically. I thought I'd just be getting tired all the time, but no, it's actually doing well. I've never been this fit before in my life. Obviously the aftermath of getting your body battered by poison so much is fatigue. I was so fatigued for years. Like, I still the odd time get bad bouts of fatigue, and it's not as bad as what it used to be. Like the first few months finishing, I couldn't do anything. I was just sleeping, did nothing but sleep. I don't know if I'll ever do a video on this because it's pretty personal to me, but mentally I still think I haven't fully recovered mentally from it. Like, it's very, very, very traumatizing for a 15, 16, 17 year old to go through that. So like, mentally I still have terrible bouts of it. Like, you know, one thing I recommend is if something bad ever does happen to you, I recommend you talk about it, because during my cancer bout I never talked about it. I never cried. I never did anything. That still has a toll on me today. Just fucking let it all out. Like, don't be a hard man. Like, I thought I was being stupid, but like as I was saying, but like the color of green that made me sick, I still get those the odd time, very small now. I don't like my phone cable touching me or anything like that. Or there's a certain food that I ate in Crumlin that I can never eat again. When I had to piss into these bottles, I couldn't look at something like this. I couldn't look at a clear glass or a clear bottle, because it would remind me of the bottles I used to pee in. It would just make me sick. So there was a lot of horrible things that happened, and not talking about that is disgraceful. I should have talked to someone. Eventually I did, obviously, and that's why I'm doing so good now. Again, I want to keep a serious tone, because I know a lot of people, a lot of my friends have dealt with it before. I'm lucky. I know at the end of the day, I know it was horrible, but I'm lucky. I'm alive. You know, a lot of people aren't alive now because of this horrible disease, so I'm extremely grateful in that sense that I'm alive. I know it was horrible, but at least I'm alive, and at least I didn't have to like lose a leg or lose a hand. You know, I know I lost my thing, but like, that's it. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for watching. Really hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, please comment. Have a good day, and goodbye.